In opera, this type of singing is called recitative. It is part of some particularly difficult aspects of opera, where words are spoken without music or sung in a style close to normal speech patterns with musical accompaniment.
That's what's so nice about recitative, is the witty writing, often not to accompany the voice, but to follow someone having said something. It gives an opportunity for building a reaction. And he writes a beautiful little arpeggio there, which enables you to go and do something with it. Yeah. Otherwise, it's mere musical filling. It's like polyfiller. You know, if Mozart wants a gap there with a reaction written in, we have to find a reaction for which he's written some music.
Yes.
Okay, let's have a go at it then.
Susanna, finisce la storia, è già finita, dunque vuole sedurti. Oh, il signor Conte non fa i complimenti con le donne mie pari, e l'impegno contratto di innamorare, il crudele io non amo. Come poi geloso di voi, come lo sono i moderni mariti, per sistema infedele, per genio capricciosi, e per orgoglio poi tutti gelosi.
In this programme, Jonathan Miller takes a band of young singers from the Royal Northern College of Music through the difficult territory of recitative and spoken dialogue.
The amount of time taken for people to talk to one another in recitative is almost exactly the same time that will be taken for them to talk to one another as if they were simply speaking.
And that's the other huge difference from an aria, in the sense that there is never any repetition. You know how in an aria, endlessly the same phrase comes back and back and back and back. In recitative, it's always goal-oriented and moving forwards in terms of advancing the plot.
Because it represents what is public, whereas arias and other more melodic compositions don't necessarily represent something that's happening in real time. It represents dramatic time, not actual real time. You're going to do Zuniga, and this is the point at which Carmen has misbehaved. There's been a huge fight amongst the girls in the factory, and the soldiers are called in to pull the girls apart. Zuniga, the officer, comes in and assigns Don Jose the job of tying up this treacherous slut, Carmen, and says, you know, look after her, tie her up and get her off to prison. And then, of course, she starts to seduce the poor sod. Okay, now, while you're doing this, what you're trying to do is you're trying to be at a distance from her so that you're tying her hands behind her back, right, and you're really hurting her, her wrists. And you're really trying to get her to shut up. You know, you hardly have any conversation with her at all. When she asks you whether you're from Navarre.
Navarrese, yes.
Okay, I'm Navarrese. I'm Navarrese. Now shut up. You know, it's very much more dismissive. Don't have any real expression with it, because what you're trying to do by means of this dialogue is to keep at a distance someone
to be
safe from yourself.
Yeah.
She's got under your skin at an earlier stage in this scene, and he's, you know, Zuniga has left you alone with her and has asked you to tie her up. So, in a way, you're trying to just simply busy yourself with the rope, and you're trying to be as authoritative to her as possible in order to protect yourself from your increasing susceptibility to her charms, and merely being close to her is enough.
Think cold shower.
Think cold shower. That's right. Think cold shower. That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
Does he actually take the rope off when he says je puis la desserrer? Or does he just loosen it?
Just loosen it. Yes,
right.
Just loosen it. Very unwillingly, as if, okay, I'll unloosen it, but don't abuse my kindness. You know, so
yes.
you know, so it's Okay, I'll loosen it, but you try and escape.
Just you try.
That's right. So be very stern and cold with her. Then we know from the fact that we're looking behind, that you're standing behind her, that there is a sort of yielding as you do it. But what you have to do is to maintain this cold shower image.
Okay.
As Lenny Bruce always used to say, think of heaps of coal. Think of heaps of coal.
Okay.
Oui, je suis bohémienne, mais tu feras tout ce que je veux parce que tu m'aimes.
Moi?
Oui, toi.
Yes, you needn't be so surprised that.
All right.
Much more.
Moi?
Moi.
Not sure.
Yeah, yes, just moi.
Moi.
Yes, stupid. Yeah, moi. God, absurd. We will learn later that it's not absurd. Yeah. Yes, moi. Just drop it quiet. Moi. You stupid girl. And make sure that parce que tu m'aimes is much more because you love me, don't you, baby? You know, parce que, and you can even whisper it, or not whisper it, but make it very, very low key and incandescent. Parce que tu m'aimes, n'est-ce pas? You know, it's just so that.
I was like a foot taller.
Yeah, but you see, it doesn't need to be turning round. You see, all you need to do is to just slightly over your shoulder, because you know it'll drop like molten lead, you know, down his shirt, and thence we know not when or where.
Okay. Parce que tu m'aimes.
Moi?
Oui, toi.
Ne me parle plus. Tu m'entends? Je te le défends.
Je te le
défends. Je te le défends.
Yes.
Te
Yes, I, you, it, forbid.
It, forbid.
Yes, I, you, it. You know, but that characteristic French way of getting all the prepositions and personal pronouns the wrong way around. I don't know.
I agree.
It's
It's
amazing we didn't win the Napoleonic War earlier, really. I mean, it is extremely hard to make your meanings in a language which actually doesn't rise naturally from the deep linguistic wells of your own soul.
Right. And we haven't got the safety mechanism of the music underneath us.
That's why, you see, it's so fascinating. When we go back and do the recit version, you'll hear, in fact, that it's like covering a lot of bad meat with very piquant sauce, and it hides the fact that it's very hard to speak French, let alone speak these lines in English. In fact, we would probably hear even worse if we were to hear it in English, because we'd hear how difficult it is for you guys who've lived all your life in, 6 fathoms of song to suddenly be on dry land of spoken language. Yeah. So it's very difficult. I mean, this is what we're trying to show is how difficult it is to suddenly go from song into speech, and then in a speech which is not your native language. Try it again and show us how hard it is. To tie her up and take her by the hand, and then the other hand. And then, you can be amused by this, and then he goes, you're hurting, very pouty with it, you see. I mean, the thing is, it's a matter of gypsy pride that, in fact, that you don't show anything of real pain. It's just, you're hurting, sod.
Right.
Okay?
Signor officier, cette corde, j'ai les poignets brisés.
Si elle vous blesse, je puis la desserrer.
Camarade, mon ami, ne feriez-vous rien pour une Navarraise?
Vous êtes Navarraise? Vous?
Sans doute.
Allons donc, tout vous dit bohémienne.
Oui, je suis bohémienne. Mais tu feras tout ce que je veux parce que tu m'aimes.
Moi?
Oui, toi.
Ne me parle plus, tu entends? Je te le défends.
C'est très bien, signor officier, c'est très bien. Si vous me défendez de parler, je ne parlerai plus.
Right. Now, I think that when he says, parce que tu m'aimes, then you say,
moi,
and then...
And I say, oui, toi.
Oui, toi. Come straight in.
Ne me parle plus.
Yes,
Ne me parle plus. Don't talk to me.
That's right. Yes, shut up. I don't want to hear any about that loving stuff, because it disturbs me. My duty. Yeah, my duty. Cold baths, hot, cold showers, cold showers, and heaps of coal. Please, for God, please, God help me. Okay? Right. So that much faster on that. Shut up. Because you learn. Oh, yeah, yes, you. Shut up. Don't talk. Because if you talk anymore, I'm going to melt. So I think that if you come, Ashley, with the rope here, just sort of lightly tapping it into your hands, just looking towards her, keeping your eye on her and not on him at all, and then just give it to him like that. Tie her up.
So I'm in between them.
And you can be slightly ahead, and then you come up to him, and you just let him come to you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think it's quite nice if you've got your hands there truculently and insolently placed. Right. Tie me up, if you dare, and then put your hands behind for him.
Oh right. Okay.
It'd be quite nice if it says, "Here you are, darling." Oh, stop it, you're hurting. You're hurting. Is that what you like? Oh, are you into hurting? Really make innuendos all the way through.
Okay.
Stop it, you're hurting. Oh, you like that, do you? Shut up. Down. Yeah. So all the way along, you provoke him.
Right.
So there's basket you man. All throw it to him. Oui, toi. Pouty. Provoke. Okay.
Mais il faut bien la rendre sage. Attacher ses deux jolis bras.
Seigneur officier, cette corde, j'ai les poignets brisés.
Si elle vous blesse, je puis la desserrer.
Camarade, mon ami, ne feriez-vous rien pour une Navarraise?
Vous êtes Navarraise, vous?
Sans doute.
Allons donc, tout vous dit, bohémienne.
Oui, je suis bohémienne. Mais tu feras tout ce que je veux, parce que tu m'aimes.
Moi?
Oui, toi.
Ne me parle plus, tu entends? Je te le défends.
C'est très bien, seigneur officier, c'est très bien. Si vous me défendez de parler, je ne parlerai plus.
Près de Rambo de Séville, chez mon ami Lilas Bastia, oups, j'irai danser.
Whoops. Yes, that's right. Yes, this wonderful bistro called Lilia's Pastia Whoops. Good. Okay. Shall we try it? Now, standing around the piano now and see what happens to this strange hall over dry linguistic gravel, and see what happens when, in fact, it's wonderfully cooked and disguised with a heavy sauce of music poured over it. Okay?
Mais il faut bien la rendre sage. Attacher ses deux jolis bras.
Et je ne puis rien faire.
Vraiment, tu ne peux rien faire.
Non, rien, j'obéis à mes chefs.
Eh bien, moi, je sais bien qu'au début de tes chefs même, tu feras tout ce que je veux. D'ici là, parce que tu m'aimes.
Moi, t'aimer?
Oui, choisis la fleur dont je t'ai fait présent, tu sais. La fleur de la sorcière, tu peux la jeter maintenant. Le charme perd.
Ne me parle plus, tu m'attends. Je parle plus, je le défends.
it's fascinating that the actual tempo is different because, for example, you can't leap in and say
She stops, I sing.
you stop, and then there's often a long musical phrase before you say I forbid you to speak.
And that's the restriction of recitative as opposed to dialogue.
Yes, it is. But it's a restriction, and of course it also introduces the possibility of another series of dramatic expressions in between. Those pauses mean that there is more opportunity for gazes, for alluring looks, for droppings of eyes, failing to meet looks, and so forth. I mean, it just is a different tempo altogether. And I think that I would have to completely restage the thing. I tell you what we can do. We can make more of this. If you throw the rope to him like that at the moment when you actually sing, because there you sing exactly the same lines, because they're okay. So he throws you the rope, and then if you then just take the rope, you hold on to it, and hold on to it, and then just drag on it, and then just hang on it, and say, "You're not really going to tie me up, are you?"
Oh, I see.
And then you say, "I must because my
It's out of
chief
my
said."
hands. I can't do anything.
Can't do anything.
À la prison,
Yes.
je n'ai plus rien faire.
Vraiment, tu ne peux rien faire. Je peux rien te rien.
Yeah, and then keep the tension there on the rope, looking at it, and then you just swing on it, and you can swing backwards and forwards. You're really going to do it. That's like that, you see.
I see.
Play the game, and then when you start singing about, da, 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 da,
Right.
da, tie yourself up. I'll do it for you, darling. So you don't need to do it at all. Okay? Yeah. It's quite interesting. You see, that wouldn't be possible, you see, if we had the spoken version. And it's very, very nice if, in fact, it's all done. As if, in fact, that they're already tethered by the eyes. So that this rope stuff is going on as a metaphor of the fact that he's tied up much more than you're tied up.
Very much so.
It's all right, baby, I'll tie myself up, and then you won't be in trouble with your chief. That wouldn't be nice, would it? Okay? And then sing it to him.
Mais il faut bien la rendre sage. Attachez ses deux jolis bras.
À la prison, et je ne puis rien faire.
Vraiment, tu ne peux rien faire.
Non, rien, j'obéis à mes chefs.
Et moi, je sais bien qu'au début de tes chefs se mêlent. Tu feras tout ce que je veux. Et sera parce que tu m'aimes.
Moi, t'aimer.
José, la fleur dont je t'ai fait oh shit. La fleur dont je t'ai fait présent, tu sais, la fleur de la sorcière, tu peux la jeter maintenant. Le chant
Ne me parle plus, tu entends. Ne parle plus, je le défends.
aussi la seguit les bois du Manzanilla. J'irai chez mon ami Ninas Pastia.
Good, lovely. It's very, very nice there. It's lovely. It's got a very good feeling to it. It's very different sort of... the whole tone of things.
Immensely different.
Yeah, it is. And actually, in some ways, much easier, I think. You could feel that, and you're not having to get your tongue tied by speaking it. It's very hard. That this is a recit with orchestral accompaniment.
That's right, it's difficult for us to picture now because obviously it's still just the same old piano and the same old 10 hands of the lovely Martin playing. But it would actually be, in this case, it's full string accompaniment with some winds as well. And it creates such a different kind of quality. So you hear this introduction, which sounds like introduction to an aria, and you think, oh, we're going to have another aria, and then suddenly you get recitative. But then these well-timed little moments of orchestral colouring, just little chords, or the odd little fragment of a phrase that find their way in to your recitative.
Okay, so in this scene, this is the scene in the garden, and everything's been set up to catch the Count. You have arrived in disguise as the Countess, and unknown to Figaro, you know that Figaro is watching you.
Yes.
So there is a sense in which you sing this little anticipation of the arrival of your lover in mischievous recognition of the fact that Figaro is going to think that you are willingly about to meet the Count. So therefore, when you sing this recit and aria, there should always be a sense that Figaro is somewhere behind you in the bushes, so that just keep little glances going, knowing that you're dropping these provocative remarks off. Is he hearing me? I hope he is, because here's me saying how much I'm looking forward to meeting my lover in the garden. Did you hear that, darling? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. As if, is he listening? Yes, he is. So I think we can proceed with the next phrase. And then, how's that going? Right.
Okay.
And on the introduction to the aria, then I think you can actually tiptoe this way.
What a bitch.
Is he listening? And then come back. And then start singing as you walk back and settle into the aria. Okay. I mean, what you want to get a feeling is that you're watching him crouch behind the hedge going, "I'll kill her, I'll kill her." and you, each time you keep on dropping more and more paprika into the front of his pants, you see. Okay?
Giunsi al fine il momento che godrò senza affanno il braccio all'idol mio. Timide core, uscite dal mio petto, a turbar non venite il mio diletto.
Very, very nice. Lovely. Very, very good. Yeah. It's very similar to the sort of language that you hear when you go to Christmas pantomimes in England. And it was, in fact, a Christmas pantomime, this, with happens to have sublime music. It's not like, you know, Mother Goose or Jack and the Beanstalk, but it's not unlike Jack and the Beanstalk. And you, I remember when I was a child going to hear pantomimes at the Palace, Watford, and hearing the ringing unnaturalness of people speaking in between the songs, and it just simply doesn't sound right, and it's made doubly hard by the fact that it's in a language you don't speak anyway.
Yeah.
So I think what we should try and do is to see if we can hack this great lumpen German goulash into something which is edible to an ordinary audience. I don't think you're in the least bit put off or embarrassed by the fact that she is self-evidently 4 social classes above you. In this sort of darkened wilderness of the underground of the pyramid, you're both of you little orphans of the storm. And it's as if you're really waiting on an abandoned platform somewhere on the outer reaches of the Northern Line with, you know, with no one else on the platform. And, I see, the next train for Barnet, 28 minutes. Well, we better have a conversation together.
Tell you what, let's sing a duet, go on.
Okay.
So if you think of yourself as someone homebound, a working class figure homebound on the Northern Line, meeting a rather Sloaney figure, and that in the solitude of this abandoned platform late at night, you strike up a conversation and become rather friendly to one another. And at no point are you frightened of him at all. You just think he's a rather charming young man.
Yeah.
Can we make it the Metropolitan line?
You've got it.
Just more my colour.
If you can relate more to the Metropolitan
so.
line, okay. But I think we should think of it as late night on the underground.
Right,
okay?
Mutter, Mutter, Mutter,
Sorry. Blah, blah, blah.
Make that much more. Be much sadder and much more intense. Mortar. Okay. Please wind this round your finger. Oh, why am I here? Here I am at 11:30 on the Metropolitan line, as it turns out. There's no train coming. I mean, keep looking again, as one does, down the platform to see. Is there any sign of the train? No sign of the train. Oh, there's a man coming down the other end. I'll try to ignore him. Yeah. Oh, mummy, where are you? Okay. All right. So come mumbling along as if, in fact, you've been walking down the corridor, right down the platform, and it's just, oh, Christ, bloody cold. And imagine that you are looking on the train indicator. Hello. And then it's hello. And try also to be a little bit sort of cautiously deferential. Not because you're impressed by her being classier than you, but because you're frightened at the thought that if you come too close and become too approaching with her, that she might misinterpret it as the beginning of an assault on the abandoned platform. Hi. You know, as if to say, I'm not going to do you any harm. Okay, so just keep all that stuff in mind as well.
Mutter. Zu neuen Qualen erweckt. Oh, das ist hart. Bitterer als der Tod.
Bin ich nicht dein Narr, dass ich mich schrecken ließ. Es gibt ja schwarze Vögel in der Welt. Warum denn nicht auch schwarze Menschen? Hier ist die schöne Fräulein noch. Du, Tochter der nächtlichen Königin.
Nächtlichen Königin? Wer bist du?
Ein Abgesandter der stemmflandernden Königin.
Meine Mutter, oh Wunder. Dein Name?
Papageno.
Papageno. Ich erinnere mich, den Namen oft gehört zu haben. Dich selbst aber sah ich nie.
Ich kam heute früh, wie gewöhnlich, zu deinem Mutterpalast mit meiner Lieferung. Eben als ich im Begriffe war, meine Vögel abzugeben, sah ich vor mir einen Mensch, der sich Prinz nennen lässt. Dieser Prinz hat deine Mutter so für sich eingenommen, dass sie ihm dein Bildnis...
I don't think you should touch him too much.
Okay.
I think because it looks as if you're getting too familiar.
Right.
And it in a way, slightly subverts what follows, which is that the duet is not about you stumbling across your long-lost lover, nor you stumbling across your much-longed-for Papagena. So that the less you touch one another, the better it is, because you both then sing about someone who, in fact, is not present.
Yeah.
And I just think, you just look at him pityingly. You'll find someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will, honestly. Oh, so you say. I haven't, you know, I don't know what it is about me that somehow puts girls off. I suppose it's my occupation, really. Bird catching is not the most charismatic and attractive occupation.
And I've got these feathers. See?
And I'm covered in feathers. So, you know, if you're a bird catcher, it's not very good at pulling birds. Well, now, just one little tiny thing. When you sit down, make it a bit slower. So when you come down and you are actually going, can I, mind if I sit down? Oh, right. And then make it a hesitant thing, as if, in fact, the sitting down itself still is possibly offensive. So that, can I sit down? No, do. Oh, right, I will. Here I go, doing the sitting down procedure. And then sit as far down the edge as you can, as if, again, you know the way in which when one comes and sits on a tube train, one, in order not to invade the space of another person so that your touching them might be misinterpreted as intimacy, you actually artificially separate yourself. But then there's always the risk of then offending them.
But you don't want to get anywhere near them.
But you don't want to get any near them. No, I'm so sorry, I'm just sitting down here. So make it fraught and awkward, that. Right, let's go back from again.
zu neuen Qualen erweckt. Oh, das ist hart, bitterer als der Tod.
Bin ich nicht dein Narr, dass ich mich schrecken ließ? Es gibt ja schwarze Vögel in der Welt, warum denn nicht auch schwarze Menschen? Hier ist die schöne Fräulein noch. Du, Tochter der nächtlichen Königin.
Nächtlichen Königin? Wer bist du?
Ein Abgesandter der sternflammenden Königin.
Meine Mutter! Oh, Wonne! Dein Name?
Papageno.
Papageno. Papageno. Ich erinnere mich, den Namen oft gehört zu haben. Dich selbst aber sah ich nie.
Ich kam heute früh, wie gewöhnlich, zu deinem Mutterpalast mit meiner Lieferung. Eben als ich im Begriff war, meine Vögel abzugeben, sah ich einen Menschen vor mir, der sich Prinz nennen lässt. Dieser Prinz hat deine Mutter so für sich eingenommen, dass sie ihm dein Bildnis schenkte und ihm befahl, dich zu befreien. Sein Entschluss war so schnell als seine Liebe zu dir.
Liebe? Er liebt mich also. Oh, sage mir das noch einmal. Ich höre das Wort Liebe gar zu gern.
Das glaube ich dir, du bist ja ein Mädchen. Komm mit. Du wirst Augen machen, wenn du deinen schönen Jüngling erblickst.
Wo denn? Es sei gewacht. Aber wenn dies ein Fahrstrich wäre, wenn dieser nun ein böser Geist von Sarastros Gefolge wäre.
Ich ein böser Geist? Wo denkst du hin?
Vergib, wenn ich dich beleidigt. Du hast ein gefühlvolles Herz. Das sehe ich in jedem deiner Züge.
Freilich habe ich ein gefühlvolles Herz. Aber was nutzt mir das alles? Ich möchte mir oft alle meine Fäden ausrupfen, wenn ich bedenke, dass Papageno kein Papageno hat.
Geduld, Freund. Der Himmel wird auch für dich sorgen. Er wird dir eine Freundin schicken, ehe du dies vermutest.
Lebenstage, sie wirkt im Kreise der Natur. Der hohe Zweck zeigt deutlich an, nicht edler sei als Weib und Mann.
Very good indeed. That's lovely. Very, very nice. Was that that was lovely. Very nice indeed. It was very natural, that. Nice and easy. All the feathers had dropped off you, and one didn't get this awful, you know, sort of perky, tweety, twinkly. It's the great risk with Papageno. He carries a heavy load of sort of comic obligations.
Yeah.
And if one strips that away, then he becomes naturally much more humorous. And then the humour can come up from the bottom up rather than being loaded with piles and piles of guano on top.
Soletto e vintici remota via, revocato o poi caduto in ti, come previsto, penser rapri, alla realtà ci si scoprì, era l'amante di Rigoletto che questa bella